The day my children tried to take my house, they brought a stranger with a briefcase. No flowers. No phone call first. Just a man in a gray suit standing between my son and daughter like he belonged there more than I did. That's how it started. Hello. My name is Lorraine Hemsley. I'm 66 years old, and I live in a small town outside of Columbus, Ohio. The kind of place where neighbors still wave from their porches and the pharmacy owner remembers your husband's name, even years after he's gone. I've lived in this house for 41 years. Gerald and I bought it when Martin was 3 and Gina was still in diapers. The oak tree out front was barely taller than the mailbox back then. Now it shades the whole yard. I raised 2 children here. I buried a husband from here. I've paid every bill, fixed every leak, and kept the garden alive through droughts and grief. This house knows me better than anyone. So when Martin and Gina showed up that Tuesday afternoon with a lawyer I'd never met, I knew something was wrong. It was early October. The leaves had just started turning, and I'd been planning to make soup. Nothing fancy. Just the kind of quiet day I'd earned after 6 decades of showing up for everyone else. The doorbell rang at 2:15. I dried my hands on the kitchen towel and walked to the front door. Through the glass, I saw Martin's car in the driveway. My heart lifted for just a second. He hadn't visited in months. Then I opened the door. Martin stood there in a blazer he only wears to impress people. Gina was beside him, arms crossed, clutching her phone. Between them stood a man I didn't recognize. Tall, polished, holding a leather folder like it was a verdict. "Mom," Martin said. No smile. No hug. "We need to talk." They walked past me before I could answer. I followed them into my own living room. The stranger introduced himself as Mr. Carroll. He placed the folder on my coffee table with careful precision. Gina sat on the edge of the sofa like she was ready to leave. Martin stood by the window, avoiding my eyes. "This is for your benefit," Gina said. "We're just trying to help." Mr. Carroll opened the folder. Inside were documents. Legal ones. Words like trust, transfer, and management authority jumped out at me. "It's simple," Martin said. "You sign this, the house goes into a family trust. We manage things for you. Less stress. Less worry." I looked at him. "Worry about what?" "You've said it yourself, Mom. This place is a lot to handle." I had never said that. Once, I mentioned the upstairs window was sticking. That was all. "You'll still live here," Gina added quickly. "Nothing changes." But everything in that room had already changed. I asked to see the papers. My hands were steady as I turned the pages. The language was dense, but I understood enough. If I signed, the house would belong to them. They could sell it, rent it, decide when I was no longer fit to stay. My name was at the bottom, highlighted in yellow. Waiting. I set the folder down. "This isn't help," I said quietly. "This is control." Gina's face tightened. Martin sighed like I was being difficult. "We're trying to protect you," he said. "From what?" I asked. "From living in my own home?" No one answered. Mr. Carroll slid a pen toward me. "Take your time, Mrs. Hemsley." I didn't touch it. They left 20 minutes later. The folder stayed on my table like a threat. I sat in my chair for a long time after. The house was silent except for the clock ticking above the fireplace. Gerald's clock. The one he wound every Sunday. I thought about all the years I'd spent raising those two. The tuition I paid. The loans I covered. The emergencies I fixed without being asked. I never kept score. That's not what mothers do. But now I wondered if I should have. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept hearing Martin's voice. Less stress. Less worry. As if I were a problem to be solved. In the morning, I made tea and sat at the kitchen table. The folder was still in the living room. I hadn't opened it again. Instead, I pulled out my address book. Old, worn, full of names I hadn't called in years. One name stood out. Diane Lockwood. Attorney. She'd helped Gerald and me with our wills years ago. Sharp mind. Kind eyes. The sort of woman who listens before she speaks. I dialed her number. Diane, I said when she answered. It's Lorraine Hemsley. I need your help. That phone call was the beginning. Not of a fight. Not of revenge. But of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Clarity. My children had come to take what I'd built. They wrapped it in soft words and legal paper, but the intention was clear. And for the first time in years, so was mine. I wasn't going to let them. The next morning, I woke before the sun came up. My legs ached. They always do when rain is coming. 41 years in Ohio teaches you to trust your bones more than the weather forecast. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table. The folder was still in the living room. I hadn't touched it since they left. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I called Diane again that afternoon. She had an opening the next day at 9. Bring everything they gave you, she said. And anything else you think matters. So I did. I pulled out the old secretary desk by the window. The one with the brass key Gerald gave me our second year in this house. Inside were folders I'd kept for decades. Taxes, insurance, deeds, letters, and one thick folder labeled Gina and Martin. I hadn't opened it in years. Inside were receipts, bank statements, copies of checks. $12,000 to Gina for a reliable car when she got her first real job. $8,500 to Martin for his landscaping business. The one that lasted 4 months. $15,000 for Gina's divorce lawyer. $9,200 for Martin's credit card debt the year his daughter was born. $22,000 for rehab when Gina's ex-husband fell apart. Page after page, year after year, I added it up slowly. My handwriting got smaller as the numbers grew. $312,400. That's what I'd given them over the years. Quietly, without being asked to pay it back. I sat there for a long time, looking at that number. I wasn't angry. I was just awake. The next morning, I drove to Diane's office. It was above the old pharmacy on Main Street. Same brick building. Same creaky stairs. She hugged me when I walked in. Still carrying the world? She asked. Not anymore, I said. That's why I'm here. We sat at her desk. I told her everything. The visit. The lawyer. The way my own children had looked at me like I was an obstacle. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Do you want to give them the house? She asked. No, I said. Not like this. Then don't. But they're my children. That doesn't mean they own you. She explained my options. A living trust in my name. I would be the trustee. Full control. No signatures needed from anyone else. If you want to include them later, you can, she said. On your terms. Not theirs. I nodded slowly. And your will, she continued. When did you last update it? Years ago. After Gerald died. Time to revisit it. She asked me questions. Who calls just to say hello? Who shows up without needing something? Only one name came easily. Eva. Gina's daughter. 23 years old. Works at a clinic 2 towns over. Brings muffins when she visits. Listens when I talk. Never asks for money. Diane wrote her name down and underlined it twice. I left her office feeling lighter. But the weight came back that evening. Gina called. Mom, she said, we need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I replied. You're being stubborn. I'm being clear. Martin says you're not thinking straight. I gripped the phone tighter. Martin hasn't called me in 3 months. Now suddenly he's worried about my thinking? Silence. We're trying to help, she said finally. No, I answered. You're trying to take. She hung up. 2 days later, Martin showed up. No warning. Just his car in my driveway and his footsteps on my porch. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Can we talk? He asked. We're talking. He shifted his weight. Mom, I know we came on strong. But you have to understand. The market's unpredictable. If something happens to you, this house becomes a liability. A liability, I repeated. You know what I mean. I know exactly what you mean. He ran a hand through his hair. The same gesture he made as a teenager when caught in a lie. We're not trying to hurt you, he said. Then why does it feel that way? He didn't answer. I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. The October air was sharp. Do you remember, I said quietly, when you were 24 and your truck broke down? You called me at midnight. I drove 40 minutes to pick you up. He nodded slowly. And when Gina's husband left? Who paid her lawyer? Who watched her kids so she could work? Mom, I've given you both everything, I said. Money, time, sleep, worry. And now you show up with a stranger and a folder and ask me to sign away my home. His jaw tightened. It's not like that. Then what is it like? We're trying to plan ahead. For what? My death? My incompetence? For reality. I looked at him. Really looked. At the lines around his eyes. At the gray creeping into his hair. At the boy I'd raised and the man who'd forgotten where he came from. Reality, I said, is that I've been your safety net for 40 years. And now you want the net itself. He left without saying goodbye. I went back inside and sat in the kitchen. The coffee had gone cold. The house was silent. I thought about calling Gina. Then I thought better of it. Instead, I opened the folder again. The one with all the receipts. $312,400. I wasn't angry about the money. I'd given it freely. What hurt was the expectation. The assumption that there would always be more. That I would always say yes. That I existed to be used. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the wind outside. The oak tree scraped against the window like it always does in autumn. Gerald used to joke that the tree was trying to come inside. It's lonely out there, he'd say. I missed him then, more than I had in months. He would have known what to do. He always did. But Gerald was gone. And I was here, alone with a decision only I could make. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook. I wrote down 3 things. I will not sign their papers. I will protect what I've built. I will remember who I am. Simple words, but they felt like armor. I called Diane that afternoon. I'm ready, I said. Let's do the trust. And the new will. Good, she replied. I'll have the drafts by Monday. When I hung up, I looked around my kitchen. At the cracked tile by the stove. At the faded curtains Gerald's mother made. At the coffee mug with the chipped handle I've used for 15 years. This house wasn't just walls and wood. It was proof that I had lived. That I had built something. That I mattered. And no one, not even my own children, was going to take that from me. On Monday morning, I drove back to Diane's office. The sky was gray, heavy, the kind of November weather that settles into your bones and stays there. I parked on Main Street and sat in the car for a moment. My hands rested on the steering wheel. Steady. This was real now. Diane had everything ready. 2 folders sat on her desk. Neatly labeled. Professional. Living trust, she said, tapping the first one. You're the sole trustee. Full control over the house, your accounts, everything. No one can touch it without your written consent. I nodded. And this, she continued, sliding the second folder toward me, is your updated will. I opened it slowly. The language was dense, but Diane had highlighted the important parts. The house would go to Eva. My savings would go to Eva. A separate trust would be set up in Eva's name. Protected. Untouchable by Martin or Gina. What about my children? I asked. They're mentioned, Diane said. Each receives a personal item of your choosing. Nothing of monetary value. I sat with that for a moment. Is that too harsh? I asked. Diane removed her glasses and looked at me directly. Lorraine, she said, you've given them over $300,000 across their lifetimes. You've paid for their mistakes, their emergencies, their second chances. And they repaid you by bringing a lawyer to take your house. She paused. This isn't harsh. This is honest. I signed everything. My signature looked smaller than I remembered. But it was mine. Diane made copies. She filed the originals. She shook my hand. You did the right thing, she said. I believed her. Mostly. On the drive home, I stopped at the grocery store. I needed milk, bread, something to fill the refrigerator. But as I walked through the aisles, I felt strange. Light-headed. Like I'd just set down a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. At the checkout, the young woman smiled at me. Having a good day? She asked. I think so, I replied. I'm not entirely sure yet. She laughed like I'd made a joke. Maybe I had. That evening, I made soup. It was Gerald's recipe. The one with carrots and thyme. The one I'd made 100 times before. But tonight, it tasted different. Richer somehow. I ate slowly. The house was quiet. The clock ticked. The soup warmed me from the inside out. For the first time in weeks, I felt like myself. The next day, Gina called. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Mom, she said. Her voice was tight. Controlled. We need to talk about what you're doing. What am I doing? I asked. Martin heard you went to a lawyer. I set my coffee cup down carefully. How did Martin hear that? Silence. Small town, she said finally. People talk. People talk, I repeated. Or people spy. Mom, we're worried about you. No, I said quietly. You're worried about the house. That's not fair, isn't it? She exhaled sharply. We're your children. We have a right to know what's happening. You have a right to know what I choose to tell you. Nothing more. Another silence. Longer this time. You're pushing us away, she said. No, I replied. I'm standing still. You're just not used to seeing me here." She hung up without saying goodbye. That night, I sat in Gerald's chair by the window. The oak tree was bare now. All its leaves had fallen. They lay scattered across the yard like memories. I thought about Gina as a little girl. She used to sit in my lap and tell me everything. Every thought, every fear, every dream. When did that stop? When did I become just a resource to her? 2 days later, something unexpected happened. I was in the garden. The late autumn sun was weak but warm. I was pulling dead tomato vines when I heard a car pull into the driveway. My heart tensed. Martin? Gina? The lawyer again? But when I stood up and looked, I saw Eva. She walked toward me with a paper bag in her arms. Her smile was wide, genuine. "Grandma," she said, "I brought you something." Inside the bag were muffins. Blueberry, still warm. "I made them this morning," she said. "Thought you might like some company." I looked at her standing there in her old sweater and muddy boots. 23 years old, working hard, living simply, showing up without being asked. "I'd love some company," I said. We sat at the kitchen table. I made tea. She broke a muffin in half and handed me the bigger piece. "How are you?" she asked. Not, "How's the house?" Not, "Have you signed anything?" Just, "How are you?" "I'm okay," I said. "Better than I was." She nodded. "Mom mentioned you've been making changes." I set my cup down. "Did she tell you what kind?" Eva shook her head. "She just said you were being difficult. That you wouldn't listen." I laughed softly. "Difficult. That's one word for it." "What would you call it?" she asked. I thought for a moment. "Clear," I said. "I'd call it clear." We talked for over an hour. I didn't tell her about the will. Not yet. That felt too heavy for a Tuesday afternoon. But I told her about the visit. About Martin and Gina and the lawyer. About the papers they wanted me to sign. She listened without interrupting. Her eyes never left mine. When I finished, she reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm sorry," she said. "You don't deserve that." 3 words. Simple. Honest. They meant more than all the explanations in the world. After she left, I stood in the kitchen doorway and watched her car disappear down the road. The house felt different with her gone. Not empty. Just quiet. I went to the secretary desk and opened the drawer. Inside were the new documents. The trust. The will. Eva's name written in careful ink. I touched the papers gently. Was I doing the right thing? That night, I dreamed of Gerald. We were young again, walking through the house when it was new. He was pointing at the walls, talking about paint colors. I was laughing at something he said. When I woke up, my pillow was wet. The next morning, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name written in careful handwriting. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single page. Typed, "Mom, we know you think we're being selfish. Maybe we are, but we're also scared. The world is expensive. Our jobs aren't secure. Our kids need things we can't afford. We looked at your house and saw a solution. Maybe that was wrong, but we didn't know how else to ask. We love you. We do, even if it doesn't look like it. Gina." I sat at the table and read it 3 times. Something in my chest loosened. Just a little. She was still my daughter. Flawed. Scared. But mine. And yet, love doesn't give you the right to take. Love doesn't erase what you tried to do. Love is not enough when trust is broken. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Then I walked to the living room and sat in Gerald's chair. Outside, the oak tree swayed in the wind, bare branches reaching toward a gray sky. I thought about Martin, about Gina, about Eva, about the papers in my desk drawer, about what it means to love people who hurt you, and about what it costs to finally stop. That evening, I made a decision. I picked up the phone and called Diane. "I want to add something to the will," I said. "What's that?" "A letter. To each of them, explaining why." She was quiet for a moment. "That's a good idea," she said finally. "But are you sure you're ready?" I looked out the window. The sun was setting, orange and pink streaking across the horizon. "No," I said, "but I think that's the point." They came together this time. No warning, no phone call, just both cars pulling into my driveway on a Saturday afternoon. I was in the kitchen when I heard them. 2 doors slamming, footsteps on gravel, voices low and urgent. My heart started pounding. I didn't go to the door. I stood by the kitchen counter and waited. The doorbell rang once, twice, 3 times, then knocking, hard, impatient. "Mom," Martin's voice. "We know you're home. Open the door." I dried my hands on the towel. Slowly, carefully. Then I walked to the front door and opened it. They stood there like a wall. Martin in his blazer, Gina in her heels, their faces tight with something between anger and fear. "We need to talk," Martin said. "Then talk," I replied. "Can we come in?" "No." Gina's eyes widened. "Mom, say what you came to say." "Right here." Martin stepped forward. His jaw was tight. "We know about the lawyer," he said. "We know about the trust. We know you're changing the will." "Good," I said. "Good?" His voice rose. "You're cutting us out. Your own children." "I'm protecting myself." "From what?" Gina demanded. "From us?" "Yes." The word hung in the air like smoke. Gina's face crumpled. "How can you say that?" "Because it's true. We're your family," she said. "Family doesn't show up with lawyers and contracts." Martin ran his hand through his hair. That old gesture. The one he made when he was cornered. "We were trying to help," he said. "Help yourselves," I corrected. "Not me. That's not fair." "Fair?" I stepped onto the porch. Closer to them. "Fair is calling your mother once a month. Fair is visiting without needing something. Fair is seeing me as a person, not a bank account." Martin's face reddened. "You think we don't care about you?" he asked. "I think you care about what I can give you." "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" I looked at him steadily. "When was the last time you asked how I was sleeping? How my knees felt? If I was lonely?" Silence. "When was the last time you called just to hear my voice?" More silence. "You don't know," I said quietly. "Because you haven't." Gina wiped her eyes. "Mom," she said, "we love you. I know you do. In your own way. But love doesn't give you the right to take. We're not taking anything. You tried to take my house. My decisions. My life. We were worried about you," she insisted. "No. You were worried about the future. Your future. And you saw this house as a solution to your problems." Martin stepped back. His hands were shaking. "Fine," he said. "You're right. We were thinking about ourselves." "Is that what you want to hear?" "I want to hear the truth." "The truth is that we're struggling," he said. His voice cracked. "The market's bad. The kids need things. We're barely making ends meet." "I know," I said. "Then why won't you help?" "Because I have. For 40 years. I've given you everything. And now you want the only thing I have left." Gina grabbed my arm. "We're not trying to hurt you," she said. I looked at her hand on my sleeve. Her fingers were tight. Desperate. "Let go," I said quietly. She didn't move. "Gina, let go." She released me slowly. I stepped back. "I love you both," I said. "I do. But I can't save you anymore. Not like this." "So what?" Martin asked. "You're just done with us?" "No. I'm done being used. That's not what's happening." "It is. You just don't see it." The wind picked up. Cold. Sharp. November biting through my sweater. Gina was crying now. Not loudly. Just tears running down her face. "I didn't want it to be like this," she whispered. "Neither did I." Martin looked at the ground. His shoulders were slumped. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "I want you to see me," I said. "Really see me. Not as a safety net. Not as a resource. But as your mother. A person with her own life. Her own needs. Her own worth." He looked up. His eyes were wet. "We do see you," he said. "No. You see what I can give." "That's not true." "Then prove it." Silence. Long. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Finally, Gina spoke. "How?" she asked. "How do we prove it?" "By leaving," I said. "And by coming back only when you want to see me. Not the house. Not the money. Me." Martin's face hardened. "So that's it?" he said. "You're choosing strangers over us?" "What strangers?" "Eva," he spat. "She's getting everything, isn't she?" My blood ran cold. "How do you know that?" He smiled bitterly. "Small town. People talk." I felt something shift inside me. Anger. Hot and sharp. "Eva shows up," I said. My voice was low. Controlled. "Every month. With muffins. With conversation. With kindness. She doesn't ask for anything. She just shows up. She's positioning herself," Martin said. "Can't you see that?" "No. She's loving me. The way you used to." "So we're replaced?" Gina asked. "Just like that?" "You replaced yourselves," I said. "By forgetting who I am." Martin took a step toward me. "This is wrong," he said. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. You'll regret this." "I already regret 40 years of giving too much." "I won't regret this." He stared at me. I stared back. For a moment we were strangers. Mother and son. Connected by blood. Divided by everything else. Then he turned and walked to his car. Gina lingered. "Mom," she said. "Please. Go home, Gina. Can we talk about this? Later? When things are calmer." "Things are calm," I said. "This is what calm looks like when someone finally stops pretending." She reached for my hand. I let her take it. Her fingers were cold. Trembling. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know. Is that enough?" I looked at her. My daughter. The baby I'd held through fevers and nightmares. The teenager I'd guided through heartbreaks. The woman I'd supported through divorce. "It's a start," I said. She nodded slowly. Then she walked to Martin's car. Got in the passenger seat. They drove away without looking back. I stood on the porch until their taillights disappeared. The oak tree swayed in the wind. Its bare branches scratched against the sky. I was shaking. Inside, I sat at the kitchen table. My hands were trembling. My heart was racing. I'd done it. I'd said the words I'd kept inside for years. And now they were out. Real. Irreversible. The house was silent. Just the clock ticking. The wind outside. My own breathing. I made tea. But when I tried to drink it, my hands shook too much. I set the cup down and stared at the wall. Was this what freedom felt like? Or loss? That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about their faces. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal in their eyes. I'd broken something. Maybe it needed breaking, but that didn't make it hurt less. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. A text from Eva. Heard things got rough today. I'm here if you need anything. I typed back slowly. Thank you. I'm okay. You don't have to be okay. You just have to be honest. I smiled despite myself. I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. I set the phone down and looked out the window. The moon was full, bright, casting shadows across my bedroom floor. Somewhere out there, my children were hurting. Because of me. Because of them. Because of 40 years of unspoken truths finally spoken. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow would come. And with it, more decisions. More consequences. More standing alone. But tonight, I just breathed. In. Out. Steady. I was still here. Still me. Still standing. And maybe, finally, that was enough. The weeks after that confrontation were quiet. Not peaceful. Not yet. But quiet. The kind of quiet that settles over a house after a storm has passed. You're still checking for damage. Still listening for thunder. But the wind has stopped. November turned into December. The first snow came on a Tuesday. Light and soft. It covered the garden like a blanket. I stood at the kitchen window and watched it fall. Everything looked different under snow. Cleaner. Simpler. Maybe that's what I needed. A fresh layer over the mess. Martin called once. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short. Careful. Mom, I've been thinking about what you said. I'm not ready to talk yet. But I wanted you to know I'm thinking. I saved the message. Not because I forgave him. But because it was honest. Gina sent a letter. Real paper. Real ink. Her handwriting looped and careful. Mom, I've been sitting with what happened. It's not easy. I keep wanting to defend myself. To explain. To make you understand. But maybe that's the problem. Maybe I've spent too long explaining and not enough time listening. I don't know where we go from here. But I know I miss you. And I know I was wrong. Love, Gina. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in the drawer with Gerald's letters. Christmas came. For the first time in years, I didn't host dinner. No turkey. No pie. No pretending everything was fine while my children talked about themselves and forgot to ask about me. Instead, I made soup. Gerald's recipe. Carrots and thyme. Eva came over in the afternoon. She brought a small tree. Just 2 feet tall. Already decorated with tiny lights. Every house needs a tree, she said. We put it on the kitchen table. It glowed softly in the winter light. We didn't talk much. Just sat together. Drank tea. Watched the snow outside. Before she left, she hugged me. I'm proud of you, she said. No one had said that to me in a long time. New Year's Eve arrived. I didn't stay up until midnight. My body doesn't keep those hours anymore. But at 10 o'clock, I poured myself a small glass of wine and sat in Gerald's chair by the window. The oak tree was bare. Its branches reached toward the sky like open hands. I thought about the year behind me. The visit. The lawyer. The papers. The confrontation. The choices I'd finally made. Was I happy? Not exactly. But I was something else. Something better. I was honest. With my children. With myself. With what I wanted from the rest of my life. That honesty had cost me comfort, certainty, The illusion that everything was fine. But it had given me something too. My own voice. In January, I turned 67. Eva came over with a cake. Chocolate. Homemade. We ate it at the kitchen table. 2 slices each. Any birthday wishes? She asked. I thought for a moment. Just this, I said. More days like this. She smiled. That evening, I wrote letters. 1 to Martin. 1 to Gina. Not angry letters. Not accusatory. Just honest ones. I wrote about the years of giving. The money. The time. The worry. I wrote about how it felt to be seen as a resource instead of a person. But I also wrote about love. Because I did love them. Despite everything. Because of everything. I wrote that I hoped we could find our way back to each other. Slowly. Carefully. Without the weight of expectation. I sealed the letters and put them in the drawer. Maybe I'd send them. Maybe I wouldn't. But writing them was enough for now. February brought more snow. The garden disappeared completely. Just white as far as I could see. I spent mornings reading. Afternoons knitting. Evenings watching old movies. Simple days. Quiet routines. But they were mine. One afternoon, I was sitting by the window when a car pulled into the driveway. My heart tensed. Old habit. But it was just Eva. She came inside with rosy cheeks and cold hands. I was in the neighborhood, she said. You're always in the neighborhood, I replied. She laughed. We made tea together, moving around my kitchen like we'd done it 100 times. Maybe we had. Before she left, she turned to me. Grandma, she said, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret it? Any of it? I set my cup down. I regret waiting so long, I said. I regret all the years I stayed quiet. All the times I said yes when I meant no. But not this? No, not this. She nodded. Good, she said. Because you deserve to be seen. After she left, I sat in the quiet house. Her words echoed in my mind. You deserve to be seen. Such a simple thing. And yet I'd spent 66 years making myself invisible. Smaller. Easier to overlook. No more. March came with melting snow. The garden reappeared. Brown and muddy. But there. I started planning what I'd plant in spring. Tomatoes again. Maybe herbs this year. Basil. Rosemary. Thyme. Simple things. Growing things. Life continuing despite everything. One morning, I woke up and realized something had shifted. The heaviness was gone. Not the sadness. That was still there. Probably always would be. But the weight of carrying everyone else had lifted. I was just me now. A 67-year-old woman in a house full of memories. And that was enough. Gina called in April. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Mom? Her voice was soft. Uncertain. Yes? I got your letter. I'd sent them. Finally. In March. After weeks of wondering. And? I asked. And I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not just words. I mean it. I closed my eyes. Thank you, I said. Can we try again? Slowly? Maybe. Yes. Slowly. I'd like that. We talked for 10 more minutes. About nothing important. The weather. Her job. Eva's new apartment. When we hung up, I felt lighter. Not healed, but healing. Martin came by in May. He stood on the porch. Nervous. His hands in his pockets. Can I come in? He asked. Yes. We sat in the kitchen. He looked around like he was seeing it for the first time. It looks the same, he said. It is the same. I'm the one who's different. He nodded slowly. I've been thinking, he said. About everything. About how I treated you. And I was wrong. I was scared and selfish, and I'm sorry. I looked at him. My son. 43 years old. Still learning. Okay, I said. Okay? Okay. We can try. That summer, we had dinner together. All of us. Martin, Gina, Eva, me. It was awkward at first. Careful. But by dessert, we were laughing. About something small. I don't even remember what. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And real was enough. I'm 68 now. The oak tree in my front yard is taller than the house. Its branches shade the whole porch. I sit there most evenings. Watching the world. The house is still mine. Every room. Every memory. Every creaky floorboard. My children call more often now. Visit sometimes. Not for money. Not for advice. Just to see me. It's not what it was before. It's better. If you're listening to this story and hearing pieces of your own life inside it, I want you to know something. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. You are not a burden for wanting your own life. You are allowed to say no, even to the people you love. Especially to the people you love. The day my children brought a lawyer to my door, I thought I was losing everything. But I was wrong. I was finding myself, 68 years old, and finally learning that my life belonged to me. Not to my children, not to my past, not to anyone's expectations, just to me. The oak tree sways in the evening breeze. Gerald's clock ticks on the mantel. The soup simmers on the stove. And I am here, still standing, still choosing, still mine. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, if it made you think, if it reminded you of your own strength, then it was worth telling. Please subscribe to this channel. Like this video. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. And remember, your life is yours. Choose yourself. You deserve it.